In just 12 months, Ford's electric dream truck went from a 200,000-unit waitlist to dealers begging people to take them. What on earth happened to the F-150 Lightning? The answer is far more shocking than you think. Just 2 years ago, the Ford F-150 Lightning was the undisputed king of the future. It was the moment the electric revolution finally reached the heart of America. With over 200,000 pre-orders, it was more than a truck. It was a statement, a symbol that the most iconic vehicle in American history was ready to lead us into a new electric era. Fast forward to today, and that triumphant story has taken a shocking turn. Ford has been forced to slash production of the Lightning by half. Dealerships are sitting on a 6-month supply of unsold inventory. And headlines are everywhere declaring the unthinkable. The Ford F-150 Lightning sales have utterly collapsed. So what on earth happened? How did the most anticipated truck in a generation go from a multi-year waitlist to a dealership paperweight? This isn't just a story about one truck. This is a story about the promises of the EV revolution colliding with the harsh realities of the real world. We're going to dive deep into the official sales data, explore the 4 critical factors that led to this crisis, from prohibitive pricing and a towing nightmare to the inconvenient truth about charging. We'll analyze Ford's desperate response, see if competitors like the Cybertruck are facing the same fate, and finally answer the billion-dollar question that everyone in the auto industry is whispering: is the EV truck dream officially dead? Stick with me, because the truth behind why Ford F-150 Lightning sales are down is far more complex and consequential than you can imagine. To truly grasp the magnitude of this situation, we need to look beyond the headlines and get into the cold, hard data. Let's trace the trajectory of the Ford F-150 Lightning sales from its meteoric rise to its current staggering decline. When the Lightning launched in 2022, the numbers were promising, albeit limited by production capacity. Ford sold just over 15,000 units in that first year, but the real story was the demand, not the supply. The 200,000 reservations were a clear signal to Wall Street and the public that Ford had a massive hit on its hands. The company immediately announced plans to triple production, aiming for an annual run rate of 150,000 trucks by the end of 2023. And for a while, it seemed they were on track. Sales in 2023 climbed to 24,165 units, a solid 55% increase over the previous year. But this is where the narrative starts to fracture. While a 55% increase looks good on paper, it fell dramatically short of the scaled-up production targets.
More worryingly, the signs of softening demand began to appear in the second half of the year. The days-to-turn metric, which measures how long a vehicle sits on a dealer lot, began to creep up. In early 2023, a Lightning was sold almost before it was unloaded from the carrier. By Q4 2023, that number had ballooned to over 90 days in some regions. Then came 2024, and the floor fell out. In January, Ford announced it was cutting its planned 2024 production from 150,000 units down to just 75,000, a 50% reduction. This wasn't a tweak, it was an emergency brake pull. The official sales numbers for the first quarter of 2024 confirmed the crisis. While Ford doesn't release monthly numbers for the Lightning specifically, industry analysts and dealer network data paint a grim picture of sales velocity grinding to a halt. We're seeing unprecedented incentives being slapped on the hood, cash rebates, low APR financing, things that were unthinkable for this truck just a year ago. The problem isn't production anymore, it's demand. The 200,000-strong waitlist has evaporated, either fulfilled or canceled. Now Ford is building trucks that nobody seems to want to buy at their current price. To put it in perspective, Ford is now selling more Maverick hybrids in a single month than it sells Lightnings in a full quarter. This reversal is one of the fastest and most dramatic shifts in consumer demand the auto industry has seen in decades. So the data is clear: the Ford F-150 Lightning sales have not just softened, they've hit a wall. The critical question now is, why? This isn't a single-issue problem. It's a perfect storm of economic reality, practical limitations, and strategic miscalculations. Let's start with the most obvious and painful barrier for the average American truck buyer: the price.
The initial promise of the F-150 Lightning was electrifying, in more ways than one. Back in May 2021, Ford CEO Jim Farley stood on stage and announced a starting price that sent shockwaves through the industry: $39,974 for the Pro model. An electric F-150 for under 40 grand? It seemed too good to be true. And as it turns out, it was. That sub-40K price point was a brilliant marketing tool, a loss leader designed to generate headlines and reservations. The reality is that very few of those base Pro models were ever produced for retail customers. Most were allocated to commercial fleets. For the average person walking into a dealership, the price of entry was significantly higher. But the real damage came from the relentless price hikes that followed. Citing significant material cost increases and other factors, Ford began raising the price of the Lightning repeatedly. That $40,000 to start Pro model from 2021 ballooned to nearly $60,000 by 2023. The more popular XLT trim, which many considered the sweet spot, saw its price jump from around $53,000 to over $65,000. The luxurious Platinum trim soared past the $90,000 mark, putting it in direct competition with luxury German sedans, not work trucks. Let's perform a direct cost comparison, which is crucial to understanding the electric truck market problems. A consumer in 2024 walks onto a Ford lot. They see a gas-powered F-150 XLT Super Crew with the popular 3.5-liter EcoBoost engine for around $55,000. Right next to it is an F-150 Lightning XLT with the standard range battery, now stickering for close to $65,000 after a few minor price adjustments. That's a $10,000 upfront premium. Yes, the federal tax credit can help, but its eligibility has been inconsistent, changing with battery sourcing rules, and many buyers don't have the tax liability to take full advantage of it. Even if we assume a buyer gets the full $7,500 credit, they are still paying more upfront for the Lightning. Proponents will argue, but you save on fuel and maintenance. Let's break that down. The EPA estimates the Lightning gets about 70 mpge. Let's assume an average electricity cost of 17 cents per kilowatt hour. To drive 15,000 miles, it would cost about $1,090 in electricity. The gas-powered EcoBoost F-150 gets about 20 mpg combined. At an average gas price of $3.50 per gallon, that same 15,000 miles would cost $2,625. So the Lightning owner saves about $1,535 per year on fuel. To recoup the initial $10,000 price difference through fuel savings alone would take over 6.5 years. And this calculation doesn't even account for the cost of installing a Level 2 home charger, which can run anywhere from $500 to $2,000. Suddenly, the economic argument becomes much weaker, especially with interest rates on auto loans being so high, amplifying that initial price gap. This is precisely why we're seeing a massive discussion around the Ford F-150 Lightning versus hybrid models, which we'll cover in detail later. For the average truck buyer, who is often pragmatic and budget-conscious, paying a massive premium for a technology with perceived compromises is a tough pill to swallow. The initial hype was built on the promise of an affordable electric workhorse. The reality became a pricey lifestyle vehicle, and the target market simply refused to follow. But even for those who could stomach the price, a far more serious, truck-specific problem was lurking, one that strikes at the very heart of what a pickup is supposed to do. If there is a single, defining function of a full-size pickup truck in America, it's the ability to work. It's the ability to haul heavy loads in the bed, and crucially, to tow. Whether it's a boat to the lake, a camper to the mountains, or a trailer full of equipment to a job site, towing is non-negotiable. And this is where the F-150 Lightning, for all its technological marvels, faces its Achilles heel: the catastrophic impact of towing on its electric range. Ford officially advertises a maximum range of up to 320 miles for the extended range battery models. For daily commuting, that's more than enough. But hitch a trailer to the back, and that number plummets with terrifying speed. Multiple independent tests by automotive journalists and real-world owners have confirmed this phenomenon. Publications like Motor Trend and Car and Driver, along with countless YouTube channels, have conducted tests where they tow trailers of varying weights, from 5,000 to 9,000 pounds, well within the Lightning's rated capacity. The results are consistently alarming. Towing a moderately heavy trailer can slash the Lightning's effective range by 50% to 65%. That 320-mile range suddenly becomes a real-world range of 120 to 160 miles. Let's paint a picture of what this means for a typical truck owner. Imagine a family wanting to take their 6,000-pound travel trailer on a weekend camping trip to a state park 200 miles away. In a gasoline F-150, that's an easy one-shot drive with plenty of fuel to spare. In an F-150 Lightning, that same trip becomes a logistical nightmare. They might not even make it to their destination on a single charge. Their journey now requires at least one, possibly two, lengthy charging stops. This transforms a simple 3-hour drive into a 5- or 6-hour ordeal. And this assumes they can even find a working, available DC fast charger on their route that can accommodate a truck with a trailer attached. Most charging station layouts are designed like parking spots, forcing drivers to unhitch their trailer, charge the truck, and then rehitch it, a massive inconvenience. This isn't just an annoyance, it fundamentally breaks the utility proposition of the truck. The future of electric pickup trucks cannot be one where the primary function of the vehicle is so severely compromised. This issue is a core reason why Ford F-150 Lightning sales are down among the traditional truck buying demographic. These are people who need their vehicles to be tools, reliable and predictable. The uncertainty of towing range, coupled with the still developing charging network, introduces a level of anxiety and planning that they simply don't have to deal with in a conventional truck. The online forums for Lightning owners are filled with these stories. Owners who love the truck for its quiet ride and instant torque for daily driving express deep frustration when it comes time to use it as a real truck. They share complex mapping strategies to hop from one fast charger to the next on long trips, a process that feels more like an expedition than a family vacation. This word-of-mouth and online sentiment spreads, poisoning the well for potential buyers who see the EV truck not as a capable tool, but as a compromised and expensive novelty. The towing problem is a perfect example of the electric truck market problems at large. The technology is impressive in a vacuum, but it has not yet solved the specific, high-demand use cases of its target audience. And this leads us directly to the third critical factor, the charging infrastructure itself. For the electric vehicle transition to succeed, charging a car needs to be as simple and reliable as filling it with gas. For many Americans, especially those living in apartments or in rural areas, we are not even close to that reality. This charging infrastructure crisis is a systemic issue affecting all EVs, but it hits electric trucks like the F-150 Lightning particularly hard due to their larger batteries and the way they are used. The problem is twofold: availability and reliability. First, let's talk about availability. While the number of public charging stations is growing, their distribution is heavily skewed towards urban centers and major coastal highways. For a truck owner living in the Midwest or someone who uses their vehicle for work in rural or agricultural areas, reliable fast charging can be scarce. A contractor can't risk driving to a remote job site with no guarantee of being able to charge up for the drive home. This charging desert phenomenon immediately disqualifies the Lightning for a huge swath of the traditional truck market. These are buyers who need a vehicle that works everywhere, not just in select corridors. The second, and perhaps more insidious problem, is reliability. A study from J.D. Power found that 1 in 5 public charging attempts fails. Think about that, a 20% failure rate. The reasons are numerous: broken chargers, payment system errors, software glitches, or chargers delivering power at a much slower rate than advertised. For an EV owner on a road trip, pulling up to a non-functional charger with a low battery is a nightmare scenario. It can mean being stranded for hours waiting for a tow. For a truck owner trying to make a living, that level of unreliability is simply unacceptable. Time is money, and a vehicle that cannot be refueled predictably is a liability, not an asset. Furthermore, the F-150 Lightning's large battery pack, while providing decent range when empty, also requires significant time to charge. Even at a top-of-the-line 350 kilowatt DC fast charger, which are still relatively rare, charging from 10% to 80% can take over 40 minutes under ideal conditions. Most fast chargers in the wild are 150 kilowatts or even 50 kilowatts, extending that wait time considerably. Compare that to a 5-minute stop at a gas station. This time disparity is a massive psychological barrier for many consumers who are used to the convenience of the existing refueling infrastructure. Ford's decision to adopt the Tesla NACS, North American Charging Standard plug, is a step in the right direction, as it will grant Ford owners access to Tesla's much larger and more reliable supercharger network. However, this access is only just beginning to roll out via adapters, and it doesn't solve all the problems. Many supercharger stalls are not designed for a vehicle as wide as an F-150, and almost none are pull-through stalls that can accommodate a trailer. So while NACS access is a positive development, it's not a silver bullet for the fundamental issues facing electric truck owners today. The infrastructure isn't just not ready for electric cars, it's especially not ready for electric trucks. This reality, combined with the high price and towing limitations, created the perfect environment for a different kind of F-150 to quietly steal the Lightning's thunder. Perhaps the most ironic twist in the saga of the F-150 Lightning sales collapse is that one of its biggest competitors is sitting right next to it in the very same Ford showroom. That competitor is the F-150 PowerBoost hybrid. While Ford was pouring billions into the all-electric Lightning, it was also perfecting its hybrid technology, and it accidentally created the perfect product for the current market sentiment. The PowerBoost hybrid offers a compelling best-of-both-worlds proposition that directly addresses the core anxieties holding buyers back from going full electric. This is the heart of the Ford F-150 Lightning versus hybrid debate. Let's look at the PowerBoost's value proposition. First, efficiency. It delivers a combined EPA rating of around 24 mpg, a significant improvement over its purely gasoline counterparts. This gives buyers tangible fuel savings without the massive upfront cost of the Lightning. The price premium for the PowerBoost over a standard EcoBoost engine is only a few $1,000s, a far more palatable number than the $10,000 plus jump to the Lightning. Second, and most importantly, it has none of the range or infrastructure anxiety. It's a hybrid that you never have to plug in. You fill it up with gasoline like any other truck. It has a total range of over 700 miles on a single tank. You can tow a heavy trailer across the country without ever once thinking about where the next charger is. For a truck buyer, this is the definition of freedom and capability. It removes all the compromises associated with the EV experience while still offering a nod towards better fuel economy and lower emissions. Third, the PowerBoost comes with a killer feature that the Lightning also has, but in a more practical package for some: Pro Power on board. This system turns the truck into a mobile generator, capable of powering tools on a job site, appliances during a power outage, or an entire campsite. On the PowerBoost, you can run the generator for days on a full tank of gas. On the Lightning, using Pro Power on board will drain the very same battery you need for driving. The sales numbers tell the story. While Lightning sales have faltered, sales of Ford's hybrid vehicles, led by the F-150 PowerBoost and the Maverick, have skyrocketed. In the first quarter of 2024, Ford's hybrid sales were up 42%, making it the #1 hybrid brand in the US. Ford is effectively competing with itself, and the hybrid is winning. The company has publicly stated it is now shifting its strategy, reallocating resources from EV production to meet the surging demand for hybrids. In a way, Ford has become a victim of its own success. The PowerBoost is arguably the truck that many anxious but curious EV buyers actually wanted, a transitional technology that offers some electric benefits without any of the EV drawbacks. The market has spoken, and it seems that for the pragmatic, demanding world of truck owners, a gradual step into electrification is far more appealing than a radical leap. This strategic self-cannibalization is a critical piece of the puzzle, explaining not just where the Lightning's potential customers went, but also signaling a broader market trend that Ford and other automakers are now scrambling to adapt to. An automaker's production schedule is like a massive, slow-moving battleship. It takes enormous effort to turn, and any major change signals a significant shift in strategy. Ford's decision in early 2024 to slash its F-150 Lightning production forecast in half was the corporate equivalent of a screeching 180-degree handbrake turn. This wasn't a minor adjustment. It was a public admission that their initial projections for EV adoption were wildly optimistic, and that the demand simply wasn't there. The Ford F-150 Lightning production cut 2024 is the single most telling data point in this entire story. The company went from running 3 shifts at its Rouge Electric Vehicle Center to just 1. This move resulted in the reassignment or layoff of roughly 1,400 workers. Companies do not make decisions that impact jobs and upend billion-dollar supply chains unless they are facing a severe market reality. Internally, Ford is in damage control mode. Leaked memos and dealer communications reveal a frantic effort to move the glut of unsold Lightnings. The company has rolled out a series of increasingly generous incentives. We're talking thousands of dollars in cash-on-the-hood rebates, special low-interest financing offers that last for 72 months, and bonus cash for dealers who can successfully move aging inventory. For customers, this means you can now buy a brand new F-150 Lightning for significantly less than the sticker price, a complete reversal from just 18 months ago when dealers were adding $5,000 or $10,000 market adjustments on top of MSRP. On the dealership level, there is a palpable sense of desperation. Sales managers who once held lotteries for the right to buy a Lightning are now seeing those same trucks sit for 150, 180, or even 200 days. This is a financial drain on dealerships, which have to pay carrying costs or floor planning for every day a vehicle sits unsold. Many dealers are now refusing to take on more Lightning inventory from the factory until their existing stock is sold, creating a bottleneck in the supply chain. This inventory pileup has also led to a collapse in the used F-150 Lightning market. With new, heavily discounted models readily available, the value of used Lightnings has plummeted. Owners who bought at the peak of the hype in 2022 and 2023 are now finding themselves underwater on their loans, owing more than the truck is worth. This erodes consumer confidence and further dissuades new buyers who are worried about depreciation. Ford's public messaging has also shifted dramatically. CEO Jim Farley, once a tireless evangelist for an all-electric future, is now openly talking about the power of customer choice and the crucial role that hybrids will play for the foreseeable future. The company's rhetoric has pivoted from all-in on EVs to a more balanced multi-propulsion strategy. This isn't a retreat, they claim, but a strategic adjustment to market realities. But for many industry observers, it looks like a company that overplayed its hand and is now scrambling to recalibrate after a very expensive and very public misstep. The production cuts and desperate sales tactics are the visible symptoms of the deeper problems we've discussed, and they raise a crucial question. Is this a uniquely Ford problem, or is the entire electric truck market on thin ice? It's tempting to look at the F-150 Lightning struggles and declare the entire concept of an electric truck a failure. But the reality is more nuanced. To understand the future of electric pickup trucks, we need to look at how Ford's main competitors, Tesla's Cybertruck and Rivian's R1T, are faring in this challenging market. Let's start with the Tesla Cybertruck. After years of delays, it finally began deliveries in late 2023. On the surface, it seems to be immune to the Lightning's problems. Demand appears insatiable, with an estimated 2 million reservations. However, we must be cautious here. These reservations are mostly $100 refundable deposits, not firm orders, and they were collected over several years of intense hype. Tesla is also in the very early stages of its production ramp-up. Like the Lightning in its first year, Tesla can sell every single Cybertruck it manages to build. The real test will come in a year or two, when production has scaled up and the initial wave of die-hard fans and early adopters has been satisfied. Will the Cybertruck, with its polarizing design and even higher price point than the Lightning, be able to attract the mainstream truck buyer? It also faces the same fundamental laws of physics when it comes to towing, with early tests showing a similar 50 to 60% range reduction under load. The Cybertruck's success, for now, is more a function of novelty and limited supply than a reflection of the broad market's readiness for an EV work truck. Now, let's look at Rivian and its R1T. Rivian was the first to market with a mass-produced electric truck, and it has carved out a distinct niche for itself in the adventure vehicle space. The R1T isn't aimed at contractors and fleet buyers. It's targeting affluent, outdoorsy consumers who might also be considering a Land Rover or a Porsche Cayenne. Rivian has also struggled, but its problems are different from Ford's. Rivian's challenge has been less about demand and more about achieving profitability and manufacturing at scale. They have faced production hell, supply chain issues, and have been burning through cash at an alarming rate. Like Ford, Rivian has also had to raise prices significantly from its initial promises. While their sales numbers have been growing, they are still a niche player, selling around 35,000 trucks and SUVs combined in 2023. They aren't trying to convert the traditional F-150 buyer, they're creating a new market segment. So what does this tell us? The electric truck market problems are not uniform. Ford's issue is specific. It tried to sell an EV to the most traditional, pragmatic, and change-resistant segment of the auto market and failed to make a compelling enough case on price and utility. Tesla is succeeding, for now, on hype and brand loyalty, targeting a completely different tech enthusiast buyer. Rivian is finding a foothold with wealthy adventurers. What no one has successfully done yet is crack the code for the mainstream, work-oriented truck buyer. The very person who buys F-150s by the million every year. This suggests the problem isn't that electric trucks can't sell. It's that the current generation of electric trucks, at their current price and with their current limitations, cannot replace the gasoline or hybrid pickup for the core of the market. This leads us to our final, ultimate question. So after dissecting the sales data, the pricing crisis, the towing disaster, the infrastructure gaps, and the competitive landscape, we return to our central question. Are the Ford F-150 Lightning's collapsing sales the death knell for the electric truck dream? The answer is a definitive no, but it is a brutal, humbling wake-up call. The dream of an electric truck in every American driveway isn't dead, but the first chapter of that dream, written with unrealistic expectations and premature hype, is officially over. The F-150 Lightning's failure to maintain momentum teaches us a crucial lesson. Technology alone is not enough. To win over the most discerning and practical vehicle buyers on the planet, you must compete on every single metric: price, capability, convenience, and reliability. The current Lightning, for all its merits, simply asks the average truck buyer to pay more for a vehicle that, in key areas like towing and refueling, does less. The market isn't rejecting electric trucks outright, it is rejecting compromised, overpriced electric trucks. What we are witnessing is not a failure of the concept, but a failure of the current execution to meet market reality. The dream is not dead, it is hibernating. It's waiting for the next generation of battery technology that can offer longer ranges and faster charging. It's waiting for a charging infrastructure that is as reliable and ubiquitous as the gas station. And most importantly, it's waiting for manufacturing costs to come down to a point where the economic argument for going electric is undeniable, not a 6-year-long math problem. Ford's pivot to hybrids is not an admission of defeat for EVs, but a smart, strategic recognition of where the consumer is today. Hybrids are the bridge that will carry the market from the internal combustion present to the all-electric future. They acclimate drivers to electric motors and regenerative braking, all while soothing the deep-seated anxieties about range and charging. The future of electric pickup trucks will arrive. It will likely come in smaller, more affordable packages first. It will come when solid-state batteries or other breakthroughs double the energy density and slash charging times. It will come when the sticker price of an EV truck is at parity with its gas-guzzling ancestor. The Ford F-150 Lightning wasn't the revolution itself, but it was a critical, if painful, first battle. It revealed the enemy, and the enemy isn't a rival automaker. It's the fundamental barriers of cost, convenience, and capability. The automaker who solves that trilemma will be the one to truly electrify the heart of America. The dream isn't dead, it's just been sent back to the workshop for some much-needed real-world engineering. But now I want to hear from you. Do you think I'm right? Is this just a temporary setback, or have electric trucks hit a permanent wall with mainstream buyers? Let me know your predictions for the future of the truck in the comments below.